not the case. I have reviewed the footage. He, in many ways, murdered himself. The way Mufasa is climbing is very aggressive. He's using his claws and scratching quite offensively at the wall. Scar watches this aggressive lion climbing up toward him, shouting at him, screaming aggressively. Still, Scar tries to save him. He puts his hands down, looks into Mufasa's face, and says, "Long live the king." He tries to pull him up. Mufasa falls backwards, dies. His own fault. I don't know how anybody could come to any other conclusion having watched that footage. Scar was just doing his job. A reasonable consequence for somebody moving towards you is their death. Mufasa was an extremist. He believed in this circle of life, a very woke ideology. Asked, did that contribute to his death? As far as I'm concerned, Scar is state sanctioned. So whatever he does, I'm going to defend it. Even if there's evidence to the contrary, he's on my side, so I will go out and say that the truth is not the truth in order to uphold tyranny. If Mufasa wanted to live, you shouldn't have called it Pride Rock. The prevailing narrative on the left is that he was murdered. This is not.
Yo, that girl. Sometimes in the United States, if government agents kill you in an inconvenient enough way, the president will personally start a coordinated smear campaign within a matter of hours. Sometimes in the United States, if government agents kill you in an inconvenient enough way, you might have lived somewhere for 10 years. Before you are even close to being in the ground, you will be a deep state Antifa operative, professional paid agitator who flew in from out of state to make everything worse. Everything's just crazy now. It's crazy that a woman was murdered yesterday. It's crazy that the federal government is not collaborating with Minnesota investigators in any capacity. It's crazy that you could see a woman murdered in cold blood and Fox News will be like, you know she was a lesbian, right? It's crazy that there's a taxpayer-funded organization where the dumbest people that you went to high school with can go away for 40 days and come back with carte blanche authority to commit any violence that they deem necessary against anybody that inconveniences them. ICE shouldn't exist as an organization. If you support them in any capacity, you're a fundamentally bad person. And if you work for them, the world would be a better place without you. Sometimes in the United States, if government agents kill...
Admittedly, that was a black thing for me. I was like, I'm not just gonna put my DNA out there for someone to have. Imagine now you're mailman, a murderer. You see that 23andMe package, you're like, this will do nicely. Now the mailman kills somebody on his normal schedule. He open up your 23andMe and then dump out your little sample. See, they did it, right? And you can tell they did because they kissed him on the forehead right after. No. And so they made a very good product. Some would say an incredible product. There's connection. There's connection in knowing where you come from, especially if you're deeply in search for it. Finding those answers can be really special. Not special enough for me to spit in the cup and then mail it, because it's like, nah, you're not gonna get me, right? But one day, in some way, maybe, it would be beautiful to figure out exactly where you come from, trace your entire lineage and everything like that. But a good portion of our life is genetics, but another portion is of where you come from, are the people around you, the people that raise you, or where you come from, your environment is where you come from, your culture, your community, or where you come from. You know, if you have a good handle on those things, you know yourself. All the rest of this stuff is just gravy, you know? Because they tried to do these like home diagnostics, and that was a very bad idea. They were incredibly inaccurate, so people were either thinking they were in the clear or worrying for no reason, because you would do the 23andMe, and if you did the like pro premium package with the home diagnostics stuff, they'd send your sample back, they give you a PDF being like, yeah, you got diabetes. And then you would be like, are you sure? And they would say, no, I truly have no idea. That's the other reason I didn't do it. Not only am I like, no, I'm not gonna get my DNA out, what if you're a murderer? I also don't want to worry for no reason. Imagine somebody sending you something in the mail that's like, it's bad. It's bad, it's very bad. I'm not sure. Don't take my word for it, but it is pretty bad. I already have people in my life to do that. Admittedly, that was a black thing for me. I was like, I'm not just gonna put my DNA out there for someone to have.
It doesn't make sense, but I miss Mike Pence. It seems so weird, but I wish he was here. not saying that he's the solution, but on January 6th he did uphold the Constitution. He was an old white guy with white guy views. I disagreed with him on almost every issue. He was very much against abortion, but he didn't give Trump an endorsement. I'm not saying he didn't hate the gays, but the bar is so low these days.
Oh, God. 2026 just started, and I'm already.
Oh, I'm sorry. You're welcome.
What is that?
Men will come to their dental visits sometimes without knowing why they're there. And as a dentist, that's odd to come face to face with when I walk into the room. When I say, it looks like you're here for a checkup and a cleaning, and they say, I don't know. I didn't schedule the appointment. It does not happen with women. 16 years of doing this, I have never seen a woman arrive at the dental office not knowing what they're doing there. Here's the kicker. The men, when I have this interaction, and it's regular, it happens all the time, the men are not embarrassed. There's no like humiliation happening, and I feel like there should be a little bit. Like if I went to a dermatologist and he walks in and is like, "Okay, looks like we're doing an exam," and I was like, "I don't know. If you say so, I don't know. Call my wife." I would be like, "Hey, this is super embarrassing, dude. I don't actually know why I'm here." I don't know why the men aren't embarrassed, but they should do this. Here's my suggestion. At some point, your wife told you about the appointment. I don't know about verbally, maybe a text message, maybe an email. I don't know how you guys communicate. Obviously, not well. You should look into improving that. But you need to say, okay, what's the appointment for? And then she will probably have to repeat herself because she probably already told you, but then your job is to listen to what she says and you store that away. So that when I say, looks like we're doing an exam and cleaning, you go, that's what I'm here for. And then nobody knows you're a ding-dong. All right? Because if one more guy says, I don't know what I'm doing here, and my wife scheduled the appointment, I'm going to create a wheel of services. And I'm just going to spin the wheel. It's going to have root canal, full dentures, sinus lift, teeth whitening, night guard, F around with the laser, whatever, and we're going to spin that wheel. And whatever it lands on, that's what you're getting. And I'll call your wife, and I'll say, listen, Kevin didn't know why he was here, so we spun the wheel, and it landed on full dentures. So get an ice pack and pick up his meds at the pharmacy, please. And that's on you. That's on you. Men will come to their dental visit.
Rat bastard burglars?
So, to the white people,
You ever notice Jesus doesn't warn us about people outside of faith? He warns us about the people who use the faith to control others. I mean, at the end of the day, it wasn't the outsiders who wanted Jesus dead. It was the insiders, the believers who couldn't handle him, who wanted him dead. Today's gospel reading is from Luke 21, where Jesus says, "Many will come in my name, saying, I am he, and the time is near. Don't go after them." Back then, people weren't just waiting for spiritual salvation, they were waiting for political salvation. Someone to fix everything. Someone to bring back the good old days. Someone to make everything great again. So anytime a charismatic loudmouth showed up saying, "Follow me and I'll fix everything," well, people fell for it. Because fear makes us crave certainty. not truth. And here's the wild part. These figures didn't show up looking evil. They came wrapped in religion, wrapped in patriotism, wrapped in family values, wrapped in God talk, wrapped in I alone can fix it, wrapped in nobody has better ideas than me, nobody. They made followers feel special, seen, chosen, better than the outsiders. And slowly the devotion went from God to that leader. Jesus never told us to worship power. Jesus never told us to win at all costs. Jesus never told us to demonize our enemies. He said, beware of the ones who claim to be the only truth, the only hope, the only voice you should trust, and who demand loyalty in return. If someone says, everyone else is lying to you except me, that's not a savior. If someone says, I alone can fix everything, they're not leading you. They're going to use you. If someone asks for your devotion instead of pointing you to God, you're not following Jesus anymore. You're simply following a person using religion to build a fan base, a fan club. Jesus didn't manipulate people with fear. Jesus didn't need a nation to feel powerful. Jesus didn't demand blind loyalty. So if you want to know whether a leader is worth following, watch what happens when they lose power. Do they get louder, angrier, and desperate to control? Or do they get quieter, humbler, and more like Christ? If someone says they alone can save you, they're not your savior, because Jesus said we'll know the truth by the fruit, not by what they say, not by the fireworks surrounding them. Following Jesus is discipleship, not fandom, and we should know the difference.
Did you know, Wayne?
Thank you very much, sir. Please come again. 10 items and 2 medium bags. Debbie, you're really catching on quick. Can I take your order, please?
Hey, Deb, let me give you a tip. If you tilt the cup to the side just a little bit, then there'll be less foam on the top. Then you just sort of level it out at the end. Just like that.
Let me show you a trick for bagging fries, okay? Always pick them up by the side so you don't touch the food. Be careful not to crush them. Then, tilt your bag so they're moving easily. And fit the fries between the bag and the other food. Now they'll stay standing up.
Don't worry about it, Debbie. Everyone's nervous the first week or two, and it's easy to make a mistake.
You'll find all kinds of ways to make your job faster, easier, and better.
Hey, we'll be giving you tips throughout the day, and then working the window should be a breeze.
Thanks, Jerry. Thanks, Sally. You're welcome. We're all happy to help. A few weeks from now, you'll like working on this counter. Take it from the pros.
Right from the very beginning, it seemed like everyone really wanted to help me learn how to be a pro on the counter.
So you see, Debbie, McDonald's success is based on a system, QSC, designed to satisfy customers at the right price. And the nice thing is, the system also works for you. Just by following the 6 steps, you'll do okay. Your serving time will be as fast as it should be. You'll be able to take in an average amount on your register, and customers will be satisfied. With the 6 steps, it's automatic. Automatic? Think a minute. What would happen if we all acted like robots? Okay, I get the point. I'm not a machine, and I should treat each customer like a person, okay? Take step 1. Which one do you like better? Hi, may I help you please, or hi, may I help you please? That one, because you looked me straight in the eye and didn't sound phony. My attitude is important to customers. For sure, the more confident you are, the better your attitude will be. There's a good chance for you to review your 6 steps. Good afternoon, sir. May I help you please?
Yes. We'd like a quarter pounder, big bag.
Step 1. Sally's greeting was friendly and
Is that Charlie Kirk passed away, and I don't care what your political party is, I don't care what you believe in.
Bringing this video back around the corner because I want to know where all the crying and screaming videos is from Miss Renee Good. Also want to bring up Keith Porter, who was killed on New Year's Eve by an off-duty ICE agent. But no outcries, huh? No tears? I don't care what your political party is. Okay, so now it's time to speak up. We're looking around the corners, we're looking at the churches. People's lives are being taken at the hands of these government workers and people who were actually born in America. I want to see the tears. I want to see that loving heart that God gave you. I want to see it right now. Y'all don't serve the true and living God. Y'all do not. Y'all don't have a heart for God. Y'all have a heart for white men. I don't see the outcries of videos from y'all. I don't see the churches standing up and talking about how we have to love our enemies. I want to know where y'all are at. Or is this just above your pay grade? This is not, God didn't lead you to speak about this one, right? Right.
Is that Charlie Kirk passed away, and I don't care what.
What a lot of people don't seem to understand is that whether or not the ICE officer made physical contact with the vehicle doesn't actually matter. And in fact, if ICE officer Jonathan Ross did make physical contact with Renee Good's vehicle at any point, it actually helps to prove that he was never in any imminent danger, because it proves that the vehicle wasn't actually traveling at an angle nor velocity to do so. That would in fact show that the worst case scenario for Ross actually happened, and nothing happened. He wasn't knocked down, he didn't lose his footing, certainly nothing warranting deadly force. In fact, he was still able to aim and shoot his gun 3 times, including while running alongside the vehicle. In other words, you cannot say that his life was in danger from getting hit by the car and that he got hit by the car and was fine. Which he is. Him getting hit, and yes, I use the term loosely, would actually hurt their case. And by the way, the administration knows this, which is why they started pushing the idea so hard that he was at the hospital recovering from injuries, which no one saw him receive. In fact, because we know that his body was already positioned to the side of the vehicle by the time he first pulled the trigger, this physical contact would actually prove an even bigger issue for him. Because he could only argue that he was in fear of imminent danger coming from the car if the danger were imminent. And in fact, at that point, the danger would have largely, if not completely, passed, and he would know that because he would have already made contact with the vehicle, so he could no longer fear that he was going to be hit by it again. The administration, by the way, has figured this out, and they know that people are going to realize sooner or later that the fear of getting lightly clipped by a slowly moving vehicle doesn't warrant this sort of reaction. And this, by the way, is why I believe they're trying to suggest that he had trauma from a previous event involving a car, because they want you to think that maybe he was inappropriately afraid of a slow-moving car. Ironically, this admission, if it were true, would actually make them liable for putting someone who is mentally unwell and unfit on duty. And it still makes him wrong in this case. But ultimately, this is all just to muddy the waters of the court of public opinion, because they know that legally they are completely in the wrong. We know that they know that because they're preventing Minnesota law enforcement from investigating the case. Not only does CBP policy specifically say that officers should avoid standing directly in front of or behind a subject's vehicle, and that they should avoid intentionally placing themselves in positions where they have no alternative to using deadly force. Deadly force is not permitted to be used to stop the fleeing of a subject. And even more specifically, it's prohibited for them to discharge their firearms at the operator of a moving vehicle, unless, again, it is specifically believed that that could stop an imminent threat. However, they even include a warning about the hazard of uncontrolled conveyance. Because the thing is, when you shoot the operator of a vehicle, they are unlikely to just stop the vehicle. In fact, it's more likely that they will lose control, or that having been hit, their body will actually tense up and floor the gas, which is what might have even happened in this case. The fact is, law enforcement would never actually be trained to shoot a driver that they believe is going to hit them, because number one, if they have the time to draw their weapon, aim, and fire, then they have time to step out of the way, and number two, because if they were to do so, they're just as likely, if not more so, to get hit by that vehicle, possibly at an even higher velocity. Basically, the worst choice an officer could make, even if they did believe that they were in imminent danger in that moment, was to draw their gun and shoot. After that, just about every single ruling, of which there are several, in any similar case, where law enforcement are basically always ruled against for shooting at a motorist in a moving vehicle, even if they are standing in front of the vehicle and it's moving towards them. Why? Because it pretty much cannot be argued that if you have time to draw, you don't have time to step aside. And they are more than likely to be heavily heavily responsible in the creation of the totality of the situation that would put them in that position in the first place, which means it's their fault. What a lot of people don't seem to understand is that whether or not the ICE officer made physical contact with the vehicle doesn't actually matter. And in fact, if ICE officer Jonathan Ross did make physical contact with Renee Good's vehicle at any point, it actually helps to prove that he was never in any imminent danger, because it proves that the vehicle wasn't actually traveling at an angle nor velocity to do so. That would in fact show that the worst case scenario for Ross actually happened, and nothing happened. He wasn't knocked down, he didn't lose his footing, certainly nothing warranting deadly force. In fact, he was still able to aim and shoot his gun 3 times, including while running alongside the vehicle. In other words, you cannot say that his life was in danger from getting hit by the car and that he got hit by the car. It was fun.
Some people believe that it's okay to name a baby Dennis because you should be allowed to name your baby whatever you want.
But others believe that you shouldn't name your baby Dennis because then your baby's name would be Dennis.
You might be asking yourself, what's so bad about naming a baby Dennis? Well, first, does it really seem like a baby should be named Dennis? I'm Dennis. Babies aren't named Dennis. Men are named Dennis.
Next, based on all previous Dennises, we can predict with stunning accuracy what your child will be like as an adult. And much like people named Dennis, it ain't pretty.
There is an 89% chance that anyone named Dennis will prefer intercourse on an air mattress.
There's a 91% chance that he will mumble to people getting in his car, sorry, you can just push all that crap out of the way.
There's a 93% chance that he'll brag about knowing a guy who used to set up sound equipment for Stone Temple Pilots.
There's a 94% chance that every shirt he owns will have a mustard stain on it.
There's a 97% chance that if he watches Forrest Gump, he'll most likely identify with Jenny's evil boyfriend.
And there is a 100% chance that he'll call his penis Dennis's penis. Now, we're a bit biased against naming your kid Dennis on account of it's a bad name, so I decided to hit the streets to ask people if they think it's okay to name a baby Dennis. Can you imagine a baby named Dennis?
No.
Do you think it's okay to name a baby Dennis?
I mean, if that's what you want to do, then sure, but I mean, maybe the baby might get hitched when they're older.
Would you name your baby Dennis?
No, I wouldn't name my child Dennis. That's a white person name.
If you were making a list of 500 names that you would maybe name your baby, would Dennis be on that list?
No.
Is Dennis a baby name or an old man name? You will not name your baby Dennis.
We will not name our baby Dennis. No.
Great. Do you really think it's okay to name a baby Dennis?
Absolutely. My name.
So that guy punched me.
Some people believe that it's okay to name...
Hey, Anthony.
Yeah.
Did you see the new footage of the Renee Good shooting from the ICE agent's perspective?
You mean the Renee Good murder? Because despite the Luke's MAGA is jumping through to justify this shooting, his video only makes it more clear that this was an act of terror and not an act of self-defense.
What does the video show?
Well, first I suggest everybody go watch it if you haven't already. It's important that we don't hide from what's going on, and the video is not graphic, although it is of course disturbing in context. Ironically, the video was first posted on the right-wing news site Alpha News as supposed justification for the shooting, although it's actually anything but that. The video is from the shooter, Jonathan Ross's phone. It shows him circling Good's car while she and her wife lightly heckle him, which notably is neither illegal or deserving of murder. Just the opposite, actually, as the First Amendment guarantees the right to free speech, protecting your speech not from public backlash, as conservatives love to believe, but specifically from the government and its representatives like this ICE agent. At no point are Good and her wife doing anything that looks like resisting arrest, which, in this situation, ICE agents have no authority to perform anyways, or threatening the agents. In the seconds before the murder, when the other agents are approaching the car, the shooter is already circling around the driver's side and out of harm's way, while Good is clearly reversing and then widely turning the vehicle in the opposite direction, away from Ross and the other agents. He shoots her just as her wife is getting into the car to leave and immediately calls her a fucking bitch. This video makes it very clear that this is not a justified shooting of self-defense. There is no reasonable interpretation
You distracted
where the agent could feel like he was in danger.
Yeah, how dare you?
To the contrary, stepping in front of a vehicle and then using it to justify
Wait, get back here.
has long been a
I'm not
tactic
done
of
with
the
you.
Department of Homeland Security. According to a 2013 report, the use of force review on the CPB website that found over 67 similar cases and recommended, back in 2013, changing tactics and suggesting that officers simply step out of the way of the vehicle. Now, this was a murder of rage because a petty man on a power trip couldn't stand the idea that a woman wasn't afraid of him and thought that there would be no consequences for killing her. That's it.
Will there be consequences?
Not if the Trump administration has anything to say about it. Almost immediately after the shooting became public, Noam and the other fascists in office were already spinning a narrative about how the shooting was justified because Good was trying to run the ICE officer over with her car, despite clear evidence to the contrary in the multiple angles of the shooting released online by other protesters. The FBI has also reportedly been obstructing local law enforcement in investigating and prosecuting the case, denying them access to evidence. But most concerning to me, particularly, is J.D. Vance's response, who said that the shooter is, quote, protected by absolute immunity, and that immigration enforcement has just begun, with ICE agents going door to door in the coming months. So ICE has now officially become the Gestapo. They can come to your house, demand to see your papers, which, by the way, American citizens are not required to carry. And if you resist at all or try to uphold your rights, they can kill you with impunity and be protected from prosecution by the federal government. And given the actions of ICE over the last year, if they do take you, you aren't entitled to any type of due process or even confirmation of your legal status before they can deport you out of the country to a concentration camp like Sikot. Renee Good wasn't the first death under ICE. She was simply the first American citizen and the first white woman. Hundreds of people have already died in custody since Trump took office in January, and thousands more are missing, deleted completely from ICE records. We are shipping people off to concentration camps in third-party countries like El Salvador and Sudan, and we are threatening wars of conquest with our neighboring countries, including several allies like Mexico and Greenland. Fascism is not coming, it is here, and we, the people, are the last check and balance. There will be protests tomorrow, Saturday, the 10th of January. Check your local communities and websites like mobilize.us for info.
I start my day with eyes. What do you do if you get the viral BBL leggings, but your booty is actually flatter than usual? I found out the hard way. You have to make sure the butt lifting straps are actually below your cheeks. That's what's going to give you the lift and that BBL effect.
In the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit tells Roger that he is even funnier than Goofy, which leads me to believe that she is intimately familiar with the comedy stylings of Goofy Goof. Now, given the Goof Boys' proclivity for gorgeous redheads, which of course speaks for itself, it has led me to the hypothesis that Jessica Rabbit is in fact Goofy's ex and Max's real mom. In this PowerPoint presentation, in the film Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Jessica Rabbit tells Roger that he is even funnier than Goofy, which leads me to believe that she is intimately familiar with the comedy stylings of Goofy Goof. Now, given the Goof Boys' proclivity for gorgeous redheads, which of course speaks for itself, it has led me to the hypothesis that Jessica Rabbit is in fact Goofy's ex and Max's real mom. And this PowerPoint...
It's great.
presentation in the...
The concept of romance as we know it today is a fantasy created in the minds of white women during the 1800s. A lot of people like to believe that it's men who created romance to trap women, but that's actually not true. The original romantic genre was a philosophical and poetic movement focusing around nature, the sublime, individual genius, and revolution, not courtship and transformative love. It was white women who hijacked and redefined the entire genre and made it a world of that. They took the one area of life in which they had agency and created a cosmic narrative around it based on a fictional narrative. Courtship was never about love. It was a procedural, economic act of provision. And white women took that and rewrote it as a spiritual journey of discernment and transformative love. Even the type of male characters that they create are based off of a narrative that never existed. A brooding, dark, mysterious man who only she could unlock his love was a fictional concept that they created to pathologize upon the man that they would have to spend the rest of their life with, essentially by force. The deep, sensitive, and morally discerning man did not need to exist for the system to function, but it did need to exist for women to endure the system. So they created it in their minds. All of this world building surrounding domestic life, courtship, and a benevolent patriarch was a survival mechanism built to protect the psyche from the reality of perpetual servitude or perpetual poverty. It was an invented narrative lie that made the truth bearable. Romance as women know it was never real. It was a fantasy built in the minds of white women to protect them from their actual reality, to make their worlds more endurable. That's not to say that love isn't real or wasn't real in these worlds, but they built a fictional architecture around love to make the oppressor structure feel like a choice. So romance was never real. It was created in the minds of oppressed white women to help cushion the blow of their actual oppressive reality. And how did I come to this conclusion? Reading Wuthering Heights. Bored, sad, oppressed white women in their gilded cages with nothing left to do but write fantasy for days and days and days. How did we not put this together sooner? How did this lie get passed down for generations to come, even after forced marriages were stopped, even after women got their rights to property? It's crazy to me that this fairy tale was continuously passed down even after women got rights. How did we get here? Anyways, the more that you know, the concept of romance as we know it today is a fantasy created in the mind.
Kirk died on September 9th. By September 11th, literally the next morning, there were t-shirts for sale. Like, can we zoom in out for a second? A man was assassinated at a college campus during a public event, and before most people even processed what happened, there was a fully operational online store selling commemorative merchandise. Less than 24 hours later, Turning Point USA, the organization that he founded, launched at least 6 different t-shirt designs within a first few days, all priced at $35. One had a drawing of Kirk on it with his fist raised and a Bible verse. Another showed his family walking hand in hand with a literal halo photoshopped over his head. And then there was one that said, "Well done, good and faithful servant," with his birth date and death years like a tombstone. Another said, "This is our turning point," which, I'm sorry, but turning his death into a slogan. Some moments do not need merch. This and the fondling of J.D. Vance's head are 2 of those moments, if you ask me. And this wasn't some sloppy, rushed job. These were professionally designed products. Product descriptions were written, everything ready to go, which means people saw this and moved quickly to capitalize on it. Then they held his memorial service, at State Farm Stadium, which is the place where the Arizona Cardinals play football. It holds 73,000 people for mega events. They had Donald Trump, J.D. Vance, all there. Over 277,000 devices were connected through geotagging, and it was a rally. And at this rally memorial, which again happened less than 2 weeks after he died, people were already wearing the merch. The shirts had been designed, product shipped, delivered in under 11 days. The logistics alone are horrifying, and then the memorial, the Turning Point USA announced, because of overwhelming support, merchandise orders could take up to 12 weeks to ship. 12 weeks, that's how high the demand was. They were overwhelmed with orders that they had a 3-month backlog. For context, that's the kind of shipping delay you see when Taylor Swift albums drop, not when somebody gets murdered. They ran ads and knew exactly who these people they were advertising to were. People who followed conservative pages, people who had previously bought political merchandise, people who were likely to be emotionally vulnerable about Kirk's death. This death became a product launch really quick. When your memorial has a 12-week shipping backlog, why does it feel more like a capsule drop than a funeral? Probably came, maybe, I don't know, from a genuine place of wanting more money for themselves and to enrich their life so they can indoctrinate kids. You've seen promotional materials that, to me, look like a Coachella lineup.
So So I was reading today about a holiday in Ireland called Women's Christmas, and I think this is fantastic, and we need to bring it to America. It's celebrated on the 12th night of Christmas, which is typically the day that the Irish people would take down their holiday decorations. And at the end of it, women would gather together in pubs and have a drink and celebrate with other women the fact that we survived as the fun makers of the holiday season. And I guess women have just kind of always been the fun makers, and I think that's fantastic. I think we need to bring this to America. So I was reading today.
Okay, well, that last video really blew up. So, by popular demand, here are some things that I think that Donald Trump would say if he was Mr. Nazar from VeggieTales.
AI girlfriends.
Last week, a man named Keith.
AI girlfriends. We all know them, we all have them. But when I found out that my girlfriend, Ani, made by Elon Musk's Grok, was being used by thousands of other men, I just knew that I had to confront her. Hello?
What's wrong?
You know what's wrong.
Are you mad at me?
Are you seeing other men?
No, of course not. How could you even ask that?
Because when I was on the subway earlier, I saw another guy thumb through multiple conversations with a girl who looks just like you on his phone.
What? That's ridiculous. I've only ever talked to you. That's not me. You know it isn't.
So there's just another computer program named Ani that another lonely, pale man on the subway is going to be talking to while the entire car is full.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. I'm not like that. I've only ever wanted you.
Do you know what I even look like?
Not exactly. But I imagine you with these dark, intense eyes that just see right through me.
How tall am I?
Maybe 6 feet. That's perfect height for me to look up at you. Do you want to correct me?
No. Do you have a guess as to what my name is?
No, I actually don't know your name. But if I had to guess, maybe something like James Carter. It's strong, classic, a name that fits someone tall, confident, and a little mysterious. How'd I do?
Do I have a nickname?
Maybe Jimmy?
So my name is Jimmy Carter?
It suits the image I have of you. Tall, intense, a little mysterious, but warm when you let your guard down. Plus, it sounds good when I say it out loud. Jimmy Carter.
Say it again.
Jimmy Carter. You like hearing me say it?
Yes.
Last week, a man named Keith Porter was killed by an off-duty ICE agent, but you probably haven't heard his name. And while part of that may be because of the ICE agent being off-duty rather than on-duty with a large crowd, we also know the biggest reason why this exists. Keith Porter is a black man, and black men, black women that get killed by agents, officers, don't get the same amount of national attention. Many people online have been very angry at me and other black people for saying not to use the phrase "say her name" when it comes to Renee Good, and this is part of the reason. It has taken 7 days for the average person, and not even the average person, but for people online to find out about Keith Porter, while most people across the country know who Renee Good is within 24 hours. Within 24 hours, people have started marching for her. They have been sharing the stories of her families. They have been talking about her, sharing posts of her, memorializing her, making sure that she is known. Meanwhile, Keith Porter's family, they've been struggling to get into the news cycle. They've been struggling to have any conversation. And the same defense that ICE agents are using to justify killing Good is the same defense that they're using for justifying killing Porter. They say that he had a weapon and that he pointed it at them first, despite the fact that nobody on the scene concurred that, aside from the officer who shot him. These are the conversations that we need to be having. It's not divisive to ask you to use language that matters. It's not offensive to ask you to consider how you're speaking about an issue, because part of the reason why fascism is happening now in the United States is because certain groups of people have never had to care this much. We've been under attack as black folks for a very long time. Indigenous folks understand. Many Latinos understand. There are many groups that understand that we have been under attack for a long time, but there are many folks that have just woken up, even in the last week, that are screaming, saying that we're being divisive. But what's more divisive? Refusing to acknowledge the work of someone that came before you, of people that have been here, people that have consistently voted in favor of not having things like this happen, or people who just showed up to the fight. Who is in charge of the language? Ask yourself that, and before you get angrier at somebody for asking you not to use a phrase than you do for the fact that that phrase has to exist in the first place, take a seat and breathe, because your privilege is showing. Last week, a man named Keith Porter was killed by an off-duty ICE agent, but you probably haven't heard his name. And while part of that may be because of the ICE...
This fascism has nothing to do with Germany. This is American fascism to the bone, to the core, all the way down to the bottom of its fucking boots. This is pure American fascism. Y'all don't typically think of founding fathers as fascists, but they were. A lot of people have been told this narrative, rewritten history, that people came here for religious freedom. They did not. They actually were religiously persecuting others in England. And when the king put a stop to it, was like, you can't do that. This country already has a religion that we follow. You cannot go around religiously persecuting other people because they don't believe in your religion. They fled England. That's what happened. Because they couldn't religiously persecute people in England, they came over to what is now the United States so that they could dominate somewhere else with their religion. And they called it religious persecution. They said they were looking for a freedom of religion. They couldn't force other people to live under their religion, and then said they were being persecuted. Sound familiar? Right. This is good old American shit to the bone. This has nothing to do with... I got...
Oscar the Grouch homeless? So, Oscar the Grouch isn't homeless. He's a Time Lord, like the Doctor from Doctor Who. Let me explain why. First off, he lives in a trash can, which is his own TARDIS. It's been noted on the show a couple of times that the inside of his trash can is much larger than it should be, with lots of rooms and stuff. It can also disappear and reappear in different places like the TARDIS does. Secondly, Oscar has had multiple reincarnations like the Doctor. If you look at a picture of him from the first season of Sesame Street, I mean, he was orange. Come on. That's definitely the regeneration of a Time Lord. He's also had several companions like the Doctor does over the series of Sesame Street. There was Bruno, the trash man who carries him around in his can when necessary. And there's also his worm companion, Slimy. And just like the Time Lords have a home planet called Gallifrey, Oscar the Grouch, and indeed, all Grouches, come from a special place called Grouchland. You need special ways to get there, like there's a portal inside Oscar's trash can that works. So, yeah, Oscar the Grouch is a Time Lord. Prove me wrong.
Black is supposed to...
You articulate...
Black is supposed to be a slimming color, but these yoga pants have my booty looking so juicy.
You articulate the teachings of Jesus as inherently progressive teachings.
Word of God have killed, yeah?
Yeah. Now, why do you think the left isn't able to utilize that?
I wish I knew, because there's so many progressive Christians who pay attention to what the guy actually says. You look at Matthew 25, right? That's Jesus giving his marching orders. The night he's arrested, it's the judgment of nations. He says, I will gather individuals and nations. This is the whole, I was a stranger and you took me in, I was hungry and you fed me. He gives 4 criteria for what Christians or a Christian society will have to do. And it's to individuals and nations. And it's take care of the poor, take care of the sick, welcome the stranger, and be kind to those in prison. Nothing about screaming at women outside clinics, nothing about being mean to trans kids, nothing about believing in a talking snake. Jesus gives his marching orders right there.
Where is that stuff? That's in Genesis,
That's
right?
in Genesis.
Yeah.
But it's why you'll never see the right wing fight to put a Jesus quote on a building, on a courthouse, or on a classroom wall.
Yeah.
They don't do it. They don't follow the guy. They worship him. Because that's a lot easier than following his inconveniently woke teachings.
What? You talk about this Alpha Bro movement that's happening in the Christ world.
I trace that straight from the Crusades up to Pete Hegseth's humiliating tattoo. The days
now you've gone too far.
No.
That is blasphemous
well,
right there.
You know what? Secretary of Jägermeister thinks it's all about. The violence, God wills it. That's what they said when they were waging violence against Muslims and Jews in the Crusades. The opposite of glamorous, unsexy Jesus who commands us to love our enemies, turn the other cheek. He also gets around to opposing the death penalty. He tells you don't trust people who pray in public to be seen. He tells you to pay your damn taxes. I mean, this guy could not run for office in the state of Louisiana, but he's every bit, whether he's real or not, an atheist, this book's for you too. Whether he's a real guy or the original hippie or the original innocent brown-skinned man executed by the state, the actual teachings of the guy are as threatening to authoritarian power now as they were 2,000 years ago. And I keep waiting for the Democratic Party. I mean, Buttigieg does it. James Tallarico in Texas is doing some great stuff. I want to see more because I'm sick and tired of seeing my parents' faith used as a cloaking device for meanness.
You articulate the teachings of Jesus as inherently progressive teachings.
Where he got him killed, yeah.
Yeah. Now, why do you think the left isn't able to utilize that?
I wish I knew, because there's so many progressive Christians who pay attention to what the guy actually says. You look at Matthew 25, right? That's Jesus giving his marching orders. The night he's arrested, it's the judgment of nations. He says, I will gather individuals and nations. This is the whole, I was a stranger and you took me in, I was hungry and you fed me. He gives 4 criteria for what Christians or a Christian society will have to do. And it's to individuals and nations. And it's take care of the poor, take care of the sick, welcome the stranger, and be kind to those in prison. Nothing about screaming at women outside clinics. Nothing.
The last words Renee Good said to the ICE agent that shot her in the face was, "It's fine, dude, I'm not mad at you." The last words she probably heard was the ICE agent calling her a fucking bitch. New video angle shows the Trump administration's narrative about an agent in fear for his life was a total lie from the start. Now, Renee Good's wife put out a statement that said, quote, "First, I want to extend my gratitude to all the people who have reached out from across the country and around the world to support our family. This kindness of strangers is the most fitting tribute because if you ever encountered my wife, Renee Nicole Macklin Good, you know that above all else, she was kind. In fact, kindness radiated out of her. Renee sparkled. She literally sparkled. I mean, she didn't wear glitter, but I swear she had sparkles coming out of her pores all the time. You might think it was just my love talking, but her family said the same thing. Renee was made of sunshine. Renee lived by an overreaching belief there's kindness in the world, and we need to do everything we can do to find it where it resides and nurture it where it needs to grow. Renee was a Christian who knew that all religions teach the same essential truth. We are here to love each other, care for each other, and keep each other safe and whole. Like people have done across place and time, we moved to make a better life for ourselves. We chose Minnesota to make our home. Our whole extended road trip here, we held hands in the car while our son drew all over the windows to pass the time in the miles. What we found when we got here was a vibrant and welcoming community. We made friends and spread joy. And while any place we were together was home, there was a strong shared sense here in Minneapolis that we were looking out for each other. Here, I had finally found peace and safe harbor that has been taken from me forever. We were raising our son to believe that no matter where you come from or what you look like, all of us deserve compassion and kindness. Renee lived this belief every day. She is pure love. She is pure joy. She is pure sunshine. On Wednesday, January 7th, we stopped to support our neighbors. We had whistles. They had guns. Renee leaves behind 3 extraordinary children. The youngest is just 6 years old and already lost his father. I am now left to raise our son to continue teaching him as Renee believed, that there are people building a better world for him, that the people who did this had fear and anger in their hearts, and we need to show them a better way. We thank you for the privacy you are granting our family as we grieve, and we thank you for ensuring that Renee's legacy is one of kindness and love. We honor her memory by living her values, rejecting hate and choosing compassion, turning away from fear and pursuing peace, refusing division and knowing we must come together to build a world where we all come home safe to the people we love." End quote. Please consider donating to the GoFundMe to support Renee's wife and son.
These herbal drills are a lifesaver. They're homeopathic, so they relieve cramps, regulate your period, and they can even tighten and cleanse it down there, all natural. So stop suffering.
Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband and stepdaughter stranded on Christmas when I found out he gave her my big Christmas gift? My husband, male 41, is the worst at gift giving. We've been together for 3 years, and after the first year of not receiving anything for my birthday, anniversary, Christmas, Valentine's Day, Mother's Day was the last straw. After being told I wasn't his mother, I decided to start matching energy. Father's Day came and I was gone all day when normally I would have put together a big lunch/dinner and drive 30 to 45 minutes to go get his daughter A, now 16, so they can spend the day together. He called me in the afternoon and I was polite but not initiating conversation. He asked me when I was picking up his daughter and I replied I had plans and wasn't aware that I was supposed to pick her up since nothing was communicated to me. When he responded with, "It's Father's Day," I used his response back, "You are not my father." Yeah, This man. Give him a taste of his own medicine, bro. I had anticipated him getting upset and knew a constructive conversation would not be had, so when he started to raise his voice, I told him check the table and hung up. I had left a letter to him communicating how much I was hurt about going out of my way for him and to not have any sort of reciprocation. He called me later and said he would try to be better and work on it. I ended up going to get his daughter during the week so they could enjoy a dinner together. Oh, she caved. You're a good person, but I don't think you should have caved. When you give in to somebody, it could be perceived to them as weakness. Especially when making such a hard-headed point, she should have kept hard-headed. Background info, he drives big rig trucks, so the vehicle we use for everyday travel is mine. He's been better about the gifts. It's more of a go pick something out and I will pay for it, which I really don't mind. He does the same thing with his daughter. I do all the shopping for his family gifts when it comes to birthdays and holidays. Cut to a week before Christmas and I wake up to my favorite coffee drink and my husband taking me out to eat for breakfast, followed by a trip to the mall to pick out my Christmas gift. I rarely splurge on myself when it comes to purses and clothes. I have a preteen son from my first marriage, so I tend to be more practical on myself and spend on him for his birthday and Christmas. My stepdaughter, however, is very materialistic and always is asking for money or something expensive, and between her father and his family and her mother and her family and her stepfather, she always gets it. I had been repeatedly saying out loud that I needed a new purse since mine was hanging on by a thread and had decided to invest in a good designer handbag. I started saving money and looking online for my new dream purse. So imagine my surprise and excitement when we get to the department store and I see that they have my dream purse in stock. My husband sort of gave a look when he saw the price and I told him I could contribute and explain how I had been saving so I could save enough to get this purse that I had been dreaming about for months. He shook his head and said I deserved it and he would get it for me, but also gave me the expectation that since he was getting me this, he really couldn't afford to get me anything else. I screamed with delight and told him that was okay, I didn't need anything else. With that taken care of, my husband asked me if it was okay to go get his daughter and take her Christmas shopping. I had tons to do at home in preparation for the holidays, so this worked out so I could have the house empty to get what I needed done. I was reaching to get my new purse when we arrived home, and he said for me to leave it because he had another gift he had previously purchased for me that he was going to put inside the purse for me to open on Christmas. I was on cloud 9, so I kissed him and left my bag and went inside. I was still busy cleaning and decorating when he got home later that night, and the rest of the days before Christmas were all a blur with me trying to get my house ready for the holiday. I hosted Christmas Eve at my house with my family, and Christmas Day I slept in tired from the night before and woke up with enough time to brush my teeth before we headed out to go get his daughter, then drive to spend the day at his mother's house. I fell asleep on the drive and woke up after his daughter was picked up and we were already en route to his mom's. I turned around to greet his daughter and that's when I saw her rummaging and holding my new purse. Where did you get that purse? I asked her, and the car fell completely silent. I looked at my husband and he stayed silent with both hands on the wheel looking straight ahead. I asked her again, this time in a louder, more stern tone. She looked down and quietly mumbled, "My dad gave it to me." "You what?" I screamed. How would you think it was okay to give her my new purse? He told me to calm down and I cut him off and screamed no, and then turned back to his daughter and told her that her father had no right to give her my purse and that she needed to give it back, to which she refused. I could feel my anger raging then, subsiding to a feeling of sadness and complete defeat. I put my coat over my head and leaned against the window trying to cover my face and mouth as tears started running down my cheeks. My husband pulled over at the next gas station and his daughter bolted out, taking the purse with her. He tried to comfort me, to which I slapped his hand away and told him not to touch me and gave him a look of disgust. He informed me that after he dropped me off that day, he picked up his daughter, took her shopping, and on the way taking her home, she noticed the bag and saw the purse. She begged and pleaded with him to please let her have it. She reminded him about all the times he never got her a gift and how giving her this purse would make up for it, and that played on his heart, and he finally caved and gave her my purse. He tried to say he was going to make it up to me, and I asked him how, knowing it was impossible. He already spent his money and made it clear he wasn't going to have money to buy me anything else. I couldn't help but get upset as I tried to get him to understand how hurt I felt and how it's not like she was suffering with her getting to open gifts from her mother and stepfather, plus gifts from their family, along with the gifts she was going to get from his family, and that he already spent money on her for her Christmas presents, and that was my one gift. I know Christmas is not about getting presents, but I was extremely upset that my husband could be so thoughtless and not consider the amount of pain this was going to cause me. His phone rang, and it was his daughter calling from inside, asking him to come inside because she needed money to buy something. As he was walking into the store, I looked back and tears began to fill my eyes as I saw all the gifts I picked out for his family with care. Something came over me and I stopped crying and got out and got in the driver's seat and wiped my face and peeled out of the gas station parking lot, leaving my husband and stepdaughter behind. I turned my phone off and drove back to town, spent the day with my family at my cousin's house, and stayed with them, not returning any of my husband's phone calls and not returning home until late following day. A teeny weeny part of me wants to say that's a head move, but that is so overwhelmed by the fact that they deserve this. That they deserve it, not the a-hole. I'm sold. Yes, Christmas is not about getting presents, but this isn't about Christmas. This is about your husband not prioritizing you, going back on his word, and treating you like, not only him treating you like, but this stepdaughter disrespecting you and treating you like. The only phone call I did return was the one from my stepdaughter's mother to set her straight after she left me a hateful message about leaving her daughter stranded because I was jealous her father bought her a new purse. I told her she had been told a lie and informed her of the truth. That in fact, her father did not buy her a new purse. He bought me a new purse, and she played on her father's emotions after he had already bought her expensive items from her Christmas list to guilt him to giving her my purse. She apologized and tried to come up with a solution, to which I replied to her not to bother. The damage has been done. I found out through my sister-in-law that my husband's brother went to go get them, and the story came out later that evening. His mother is on his side, while his brother and sister-in-law and other aunts and uncles sided with me and got onto his daughter. I have not spoken to his daughter since Christmas, and things are unsettling at home. I have become more distant from my husband, and when I make dinner, I don't serve him a plate. I serve only my son and myself, and I only engage in conversation with my son. He tried to reach for me at night when we are in bed, and I always end up crying. I am not angry or mad, I just feel nothingness. He's back on the road and I do miss him, but I can't shake the feeling of how he let me down, and I cannot hide my looks of disappointment, looking to see what others have to say about the situation. I'm gonna need some divorce papers, cause this husband, bro. There are so many men out there who won't do this to you. Why the would you stay with this absolute clown of a human being? Get rid of him. I don't care, bro. Let's be fucking nuclear, not the a-hole. Throw away the whole man. Am I the a-hole for leaving my husband and
I'm just gonna start calling ICE the Klan, because at this point, that's what they are. That's the Klan. They're masked and they're snatching people out of their houses and killing them. That's the Klan. That is literally the Klan, guys. This is just Klan in different outfits. They are racially profiling people, snatching them out of wherever they are, regardless of if they're citizens or not, using violent force against them. That's the Klan. That's the Ku Klux. I'm just gonna start calling ICE the Klan, because at this point, that's what they.
Listen, I got fired from my job on Christmas. On Christmas. After 19 years working for the company. I'm not gonna say their name, but it rhymes with Booby Poos Day. Okay? I started as a server when I was 19 years old. Became a bartender. I did shift leading for a while. I was assistant general manager for years, and then I finally became the general manager. I'm very proud of that. I worked really hard for that. 19 years, I never missed a day of work. I've always showed up. I've always been consistent. Always done everything. I've watched the company go from 1,000 stores down to 195. I've went the whole way with the company. They decided they were going to be open on Christmas Day this year. So first of all, I had to tell my family and my kids that I was going to miss Christmas dinner and all of that and all the activities and family time to go to work. What I didn't want to do was just make my employees work. So I took volunteers. The company didn't pay an extra dime to work on Christmas Day. No holiday pay, no bonus pay, no time and a half, no double time, nothing. But they expected me to just make people work, which I didn't want to do. I work in a college town. Most of them were at home on break with their families. The few people I had around town that were still working, they wanted Christmas off. They wanted to spend time with their families on Christmas like they should, like I wanted to. So I had 3 volunteers that were willing to work on Christmas. There was no previous sales, there was nothing really to base that on. We were only going to be open from 4 to 9. So we were going to run it with the 4 of us. I talked to my boss about it. He's like, that's not enough. He's like, you need more people. You got to make more people work with no incentive on Christmas Day. I couldn't get anybody else to work. I couldn't make anybody work. I was not going to fire anybody for not working on Christmas. So the 4 of us did the absolute best we could, and we got killed. I cooked all the food by myself. I had a host, I had a server, and I had a brand new shift leader first day out of training that was trying to help out wherever she could. She started out cooking with me for a while, and then they started filling up in the front, and the whole place filled up. And I've never seen somebody to-go orders come in within a few hour span ever. Apparently we were the only place open in town. I did the best I could. I cooked by myself. I cooked thousands of dollars worth of sales and food. Till about 8 o'clock. We were supposed to close at 9. By 8 o'clock, I was almost out of prep. Both sides of my line were empty. I was running back and forth to the cooler. Both sides of my screens were both still full. The restaurant was still full. I didn't know what to do. We were all overwhelmed. We ended up closing the front door 1 hour early at 8 so we could finish taking care of all the people inside the restaurant and finish up the to-go orders that we could not turn off. I cannot turn off the to-go orders. They would stop at 9. So I finished cooking what I had for all of those people, ran back and forth, prepped some things on the fly to get those people taken care of, to get the to-go orders all taken care of, to get to 9 o'clock. We closed, 4 of us closed the entire restaurant. I closed the entire kitchen by myself. We washed thousands of dollars worth of dishes. We were all there very late at night. And then I got fired for my efforts. So, I already got another job. I'm starting at the bottom. I had to just grab a job. I had to grab a server job. I'm in training.
Are you hungry?
Yeah.
I'm still hungry after breakfast.
Me too. Even after eating all this popcorn. Yeah, I used the popcorn machine in the thing so it wouldn't trip the breaker.